Big Game 7, Rangers-Panthers Memorial Day night. Can't wait, boys.
Does it get better than a Game 7 here? Now listen, we know the Rangers have the edge with Igor in net, but will it make the difference in the decisive game?
Yes, it'll make the difference in the decisive game. I'm glad you asked. We're getting ready for a Memorial Day edition from the Pix 11 Sports Department. High above 42nd Street in the heart of New York City.
This is the Pix 11 New York Sports Nation podcast.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to this special edition of the New York Sports Nation podcast. As always, please rate and review us on Spotify, Apple, Google Play, the Pix 11 website, YouTube, tell friends. As Todd's mom likes to say, if you don't have anything nice to say, please keep it to yourself.
Right. Very, very nice. Welcome to the show, everybody. I've got two of the greatest hockey minds in the history of New York City with me to break down the Monday night game. Joe, Moose, thank you for being here.
Todd, what's cooking? I'm looking forward to the big game.
Little Game 7's cooking. All right, guys, I don't get it. Explain this to me. With a sport that's dominated by soft goals, by deflections off sticks, by deflection, everything that could change a game, could change a series, could crown a champion. How is it that Carolina has won every home game and the Rangers have lost every road game? How does this make any sense?
Well,
Bruce?
in this series, let's just put a bow.
Yeah.
In this series.
No, in both series.
No. They won in Pittsburgh.
Carolina.
Rangers won in Pittsburgh.
Oh, but Carolina, yeah.
Carolina.
Yeah.
They lost all the games
That's true.
in Carolina, in Boston. Won them all in Carolina.
That's right. I felt like it was in a new edition of Animal House where he's on the go, you know.
Yeah. Forget about it. He's on a roll with the Germans.
Yeah, Germans. What are you
Right. Forget about it. He's on a roll.
I can't explain it. Here's what the most, and you look at this series is, you know, how the Rangers look and Carolina, both of them, look so decidedly different at home as compared to when they're away. Like Carolina at home dominates the game. Well, did in 2, did in 5. You know, not so much in game 1, but in that third period, they were carrying the play more so before Aho scored the game-tying goal, and they eventually win it in overtime.
They dominated the last 2:30 of game 1.
Yeah, right.
No, they
exactly
dominated
right.
before that.
Yeah.
That led to that moment.
That led to that
2:30.
moment, right. They hit a couple posts.
Yep.
Shesterkin got a little lucky there. I can't explain it because, I mean, Carolina plays completely different. And now you look at the Rangers, obviously there is no momentum. Gallant's talked about it before.
Yes.
There's been no momentum for Carolina either.
How many times Bruce backed ass?
Yeah,
Rod steadfastly said,
Wow.
you do not take momentum.
I can't believe you dropped Bubba over here on the podcast.
I would never drop Bubba.
Zeitgeist.
As a matter of fact, I'd invite Bubba into our podcast.
Bubba's great. I can't
He is
explain it.
great.
I really
Love
can.
Bubba.
I mean, and that's what makes you think, like, what exactly is going to happen Monday night? Are you going to be all that surprised if it's going to be more of the same Carolina wins? Because that's the way the series has gone. You know, if you're a betting person, Joe, you are. I am. Todd,
I am not.
Yeah, not so much. I mean, you would think
smartest man in the room.
think
holding up every penny.
at some point in time,
529.
right? That at some point in time that's going to break, right? At some point in time, you know, you would think one of these teams would break through on away ice.
And man, you felt like that was going to be the case in game 1,
This would
right?
be a good time to break through on away
Yeah,
ice.
it would be.
Game 7, this
No
would
doubt.
work, right?
It would.
Okay.
But when you look at the way these games have played out, especially in Carolina has done nothing on the power play. They have 1 goal, I think, on 13 chances on the power play. They have had their opportunities when the Rangers were on the power play. They got 2 shorthanded goals in the series that really were a huge difference in both Game 2 and Game 5 there. So I think that special teams is going to be huge in this Game 7. And you also look at the fact that Rangers getting a little bit healthier here with Barclay Goodrow coming back, right? Mott obviously getting on the ice a little bit more. We saw Lindgren now.
Well, Mott scored.
Right.
Goodrow helps with faceoffs.
And now Igor Shesterkin is apparently in the offense with 2 assists in Game 6 there.
wasn't bad,
So
right? That
he
was
wasn't doing
helpful.
enough in net.
Right,
So he had to go one step
Right.
further there. But honestly, when you look at the way they have been playing down there, the Rangers they haven't been getting enough chances offensively. And it's just a completely different game, I feel like, when they come back to Madison Square Garden. It's far more up and down. Yes, they're giving up more chances, but I think that's a conscious effort on the part of Gerard Gallant because he knows he's got the better goaltender in this series.
Yeah.
And he wants to put as much pressure on
so
Ronta
he'll
as he can.
gamble a little bit to put more pressure on Ronta. I think it's a good idea. It's working.
Yeah, no, it is.
At home.
Yeah, at home it has. Now the question is, what's going to change?
What's going to work on the road?
Right, what's going to work on Monday night? I mean, that's the big question that you have. And I think it's a case of where can they take their game at Madison Square Garden and take it on the road? Because Carolina obviously is going to. No, but it hasn't in this series, right? They're going to have to be a lot more physical. Possess the puck. The face-offs has been a huge issue. Goodrow returning helps that. Also reunites the kid line.
7, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I think for this team, I think they've got to possess the puck a lot more. They've got to have more sustained pressure on Antti Raanta, and I do believe they've got to jump out early on Carolina and put a little bit of doubt, because now's the time where you can enact a little bit of pressure on the Carolina Hurricanes if you're able to strike first, if you're able to jump out early, not 1-0, not 2-0, maybe just score that first goal. You settle in, you gain a little bit more confidence, you start to put doubt in them, Joe.
I think all the pressure is already on Carolina going into this series. I mean, the fact that most people were picking this series to be over in 6, Carolina winning it, the fact that they're going back home for a Game 7, I think the pressure is squarely on the Canes. And that crowd, we saw in Game 1, when they were down 1-0, they were very quiet, they were sitting on their hands. True. They came to life a little bit in the third period. But Moose, I got to ask you, because you've been watching hockey your whole life here, this last change, I mean, we're talking about it after every press conference that you get if you're at home. The last change of the line.
Well, it's huge matchups.
Is it? I've never seen it.
Done.
But I've never seen it make such a difference. Or maybe I'm just naive in my view.
Well, I think when you have a team that's as defensive-minded as Carolina, when you have a line that has got Stahl and Fost on it, and they're really good at shutting down players, that is what has led to the Rangers struggling offensively. I think it really depends on the matchups. I really do. There's some that, you talk to guys around the National Hockey League, there's some that believe in it wholeheartedly, and there's some that downplay it. Obviously, it's had a big role in this series because Rod Brind'Amour tactically has been able to use that last change to his advantage and gain massive advantages. Now, the return of Goodrow helps him out, helps the Rangers out with that last change, not necessarily opening things up for, say, Zibanejad all that much, because they're still going to try and put the clamps down on that, but Goodrow obviously balances out the lines now, where you have that back line and that fourth line of being Goodrow, Mott, and Reeves, reunite the kid line, balances everything out a little bit more if you're Gerard Gallant.
So, I mean, they say momentum is, in baseball, it's the next day starting pitcher, right? Well, in hockey, it's the goaltender. And clearly the Rangers have an advantage in net. And if you look at Antti on the bench after he was pulled, those baby blues, man, he looked like a deer in headlights.
He did.
Right?
He did.
So I think if they can get an early goal, which Moose talked about a little bit earlier, maybe that could be the entire difference. Put doubt in his mind.
Look, I don't expect this game to be high scoring. I think this is going to be another one that's going to be a grind out game. But yes, 100%. I think that'll let them relax a little bit, the Rangers. I think the biggest thing is they got to be able to clear their zone, right?
Yes.
Because that forecheck down there has been everything that you talk about. But it hasn't been the same up here. I mean, there have been moments, don't get me wrong, where the Rangers weren't able to clear the puck. And last night, when we were talking about it, Moose and I, before the podcast here, I thought one of the biggest plays of the night was Shesterkin getting the interference penalty, because the guys were out there on like a 2.5 minute shift.
They were exhausted.
It was ridiculous. And that was huge, because it got him a break, it got him a rest, and finally they were able to clear the puck from the zone. They weren't even on the power play before that. That put the Canes on the power play. But if they can't get the puck out of their zone again in Carolina, and they put it all on Igor, that's going to change, especially if you're playing from behind. You get up, you can pack it in a little bit more, but prevent what we saw in Game 1 wasn't the answer.
I think you got to play a game where you're in it to win it, right? Because I think you got to lean on your goalie. Shesterkin's the best Ranger, right? He's a Hart Trophy finalist. He's going to win the Vezina. We've talked about it time and time again. We've been doing these podcasts and talking about this Ranger playoff run. I think Monday night is a case of where you have to be defensively responsible, but you have to generate scoring chances because, as Todd mentioned, put a little doubt on Raanta, pepper him with shots. Yes. You're not going to win a game in Carolina if you have 17 shots on goal.
And they were outshot twice as many shots for Carolina.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen. Lean on if Shesterkin has a bad night or Carolina beats you. I'd rather lean trying to play aggressive, trying to win the game, than being too defensive-minded and being tentative and not generating enough scoring chances, losing a game 2-0, where you still give up 29 shots on goal. Shesterkin lets in 2, but you only generate 17 shots on goal or 18 and don't have really many legit scoring chances. Go out there. You got to be aggressive on Monday night.
So let's go back for a second, because with all the line changes, having the final change for Carolina, for me, I think Mika's got to go be the one who presses the issue a lot more.
Yeah, he's been the hottest.
Four straight games with the goal. He's got, I've lost track of how many points. I know you keep.
Well, no, but he's behind. I mean, the only two guys that got more points in these playoffs are McDavid and Draisaitl with the Oilers. I mean,
and they're scoring 6 goals a game, I feel like, over there against Calgary.
Yeah, and they're pretty good. Think about that. And Zibanejad really woke up Game 6 and Game 7 against Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
You know, when they needed him most, when they're down 2-0.
Right.
That's when he woke up.
On fire.
He's been great. I mean, he's been unbelievable.
Best offensive player on the Rangers.
So,
right now,
so do you think he needs to force the issue a little bit more in Game 7? That's my question to you.
Yeah, I think so, because I don't know where Panarin is. Like, we've talked about Artemi. I did a Moose on the Loose last week on Artemi Panarin. I know
beautiful.
he scored. I know he's thanks, Todd. I know he scored the
watch.
5-on-3 power play goal. You were at the game Saturday night, Joe. Yeah. But here's the deal: is a 5-on-3 power play, right? So I mean, at the end of it, he was right in front of the net. I mean, that's one where a lot of guys are going to score. Who do you have more confidence in right now with the way Zibanejad's going, where Panarin is, and Kreider's disappeared?
Yeah.
I understand that they put.
Upsetting.
I mean, but he's a product of the guys around him. He's not as skilled as Zibanejad, not as skilled as Artemi Panarin. But he's a guy, Joe, that had 52 goals in the regular season.
But most of those goals came in front of the net on the power play.
You're right.
And he hasn't been getting to the front of the net nearly as much with Carolina. And we know, I mean, that's part of their strength of their team is that defense there. So, it isn't a favorable matchup for him in this series, but he's got to make it known that he's going to go get in front of the net and get these goals. Even the one goal that he had, I forget if it was Game 3 or 4, but it wasn't a typical Kreider goal. It was that snipe from when Zibanejad hit the stick of Tony DeAngelo there. Like,
I was sitting next to you for that.
Yes, he's got to do the dirty work. He's got to do the dirty work in this one and be in front of the net and get under the skin.
In front of the net, get dirty.
SB.
So the Rangers have faced 4 elimination games, and they've won all 4. Let me ask you guys a question. Can we give Gerard credit for keeping? He's always so even-keeled. Can you attribute their success in elimination games to coaching, or what do you attribute it to?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think he's got a good feel of this team. I think he gives them a lot of freedom. He's not on top of him. We had Mercogliano on. Yep. We talked about the fact that Quinn was all over them day in, day out, sending them text messages. Trust them to go an understanding of being a professional. I think he wants them to play a particular style.
I sent that portion of that podcast to Todd about all the text messages and the laid back style there. My phone started blowing up even more. I don't know. I think the message got lost in translation.
Right, you're like, I'm a fan of this. Todd's like, wait, what? What is this?
Please explain.
Joe, what are you doing tomorrow? Anyway, I think he's got a good feel of this team. He called them soft in the Penguin series, had them doing Herbies the next day at practice. They responded. Didn't like the way that they played, obviously, in Game 5. They responded with a hell of a performance in Game 6. I think he trusts this team. I think it's exactly what this team needed, this year. Will he be here? And who knows when this run ends. Hopefully it doesn't end Monday night in Carolina. But I think Gallant obviously deserves a ton of credit for where this team is.
I think this is going to sound crazy to say, but he's not a results-oriented coach, right? You look at those first 2 games and they lost them, but they played good games down in Carolina, and they had a chance in both of those games. All right, Game 2 maybe got away a little bit from them there in the end, but they were in it early on. And so he hasn't done anything drastic. But I think there was a big criticism of it, and you mentioned when Vince was on here, one of the things they talked about is if they don't make changes and they continue to lose, is he going to get roasted in this? I think he's been a little bit flexible. You saw in Game 3, he came out with the kid line, and that gave him a lot of energy. He mixed up those lines a little bit, but then went back to the bread and butter. No pun intended with Panarin there, but that worked for them. And so he has been a little bit flexible in there. He has been trying new things. But at the same time, I loved his line about Mika. He says, what am I going to do? I'm not going to put Mika on the bench, right, because they get last change to work these matchups. You can't go out there and make your strength a weakness. You got to go with what you got and what got you there. And he's been so good at getting back to that.
So, speaking of the bread man, I personally have him with the game winner. Howie Rose on the call. Panarin.
Metal! Defend Metal! And the Rangers have one more hill to climb, baby!
I'm just not sure there are hills or mountains in Tampa for them to climb, and they do have 2 more rounds after that, but you guys get the idea.
Yeah.
What do you guys see as the modern day Mateau? Who can win it for the Rangers tomorrow night in a Game 7?
I would probably say the modern day, I think it would be Kreider. If you're asking me for a guy that would make it ultra special, drafted by the Rangers, was on the team when they went to the Cup Finals and lost to the Kings, kind of links one era of Ranger hockey to this era of Ranger hockey, and had an unbelievable regular season, as Joe mentioned, did a ton of damage, set a new franchise record with, 25 power play goals in the regular season, had 52 in total, behind our guy Graves, who was always, and so gracious with us here at Pix 11, coming on as good of a guy as you'll see and meet. I think if you're asking me for a guy to score a game winner on Monday night, to have that kind of moment, I think it would probably be Kreider. I mean, it would be amazing to see him go out there and do it. He's there at the end of every game, congratulating. I mean, there's a lot of Ranger fans. If you polled Ranger fans right now and said, who's the captain of this team, they wouldn't want Kreider to be the captain.
Yeah, I think from a storybook ending, right?
That would be great.
That's it right there. But I actually think for him in this game, I think we said dirty work. He needs to get under the skin of Carolina. In the games that they've lost, they've taken some bad penalties. And I think, especially with D'Angelo down there, right, they've known to ignite, and the Rangers have seemed to play into that. I never felt that in any of those moments the Rangers were out of control in them. It always felt like Carolina was the one that was off the rails a little bit there, in my opinion, from the way I'm seeing it here. But the guy I'm looking at who I think can have a big moment and has had big moments already in the playoffs that I think have gone underappreciated is Andrew Kopp. I mean, since he's come over, he's been fantastic for this team, whether it's as a distributor passing the puck or getting a big timely goal. And I could see him being the difference maker in this one that gets the Rangers to the next round.
You know what the interesting thing is? Like, we talk about all these guys and give Drury a ton of credit for what they added at the NHL trade deadline, for being where they're at. Steps in where Dolan's talking about, gets rid of Gorton, gets rid of Davidson.
Yep.
Dolan's being told by other owners across the National Hockey League, this is a Stanley Cup contending team. You've got enough talent. Did what he did in the offseason. But look at Vetrano.
Yep.
Kopp. Braun. Look at the guys that they added to this team. Tyler Mott.
Yep.
And the impact.
They're all contributing.
They're all contributing.
And what was the big criticism, though, of this team then when they had that young talent? It was that they didn't have that toughness, right? And we're seeing that toughness from them. A guy like Ryan Reeves, I mean, he doesn't get a lot of ice time, but he's the motivator coming out of the locker room
Chesty,
in every
release
game.
us.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it. It's great. It's amazing.
Fantastic. And then he's the one at the end of the game who's going back and forth with D'Angelo and Lindgren when he's fighting back after he's getting, getting slashed by Domi there. So this team has that toughness, and you can't be tough if you can't not be tough if you're going to survive as many elimination games as they have.
Listen, I don't want it to end. Like, who does? I mean,
I want it to end.
It's an unbelievable run. I mean, think about this. The Rangers are having a watch party tonight in Central Park, right?
Fantastic.
It's sold out.
Or tomorrow, depending on when you're listening. But
you can't get a
ticket.
Pix 11 will be there.
Pix 11 will be there, but you can't get a ticket. Like, the baseball's been great in this city. The NBA was a massive disappointment.
But
the Rangers have given this city something, no doubt about it. And
louder than
you don't
the
have
Who.
to be the biggest high.
It's on the Who Thursday night. Ranger fans are loud.
I mean, look at you.
Who?
I'm telling you.
I mean,
who are you? Who?
I know,
Who?
big playoff game, and Todd's at the Garden watching the Who.
And I was watching the Rangers on my iPhone and
No,
texting
you were not.
you.
Were you?
Was I not texting
Yes, you were texting.
All right.
Of course you were
Just saying.
texting.
me.
Todd had the unlimited plan going way back in the day there.
Exactly.
I still actually think he has that text where you have to hit the number 3 times.
That's it.
And yet somehow he goes so fast to get through them all. It's incredible.
Blazing speed. All right, with blazing speed, predictions. Moose?
Yeah, I picked the Canes to win the
Oh,
series
come
in
on,
7.
Moose.
Listen, I'm picking the Rangers.
Yeah!
I'm picking the Rangers.
That's what I'm talking about.
Memorial Day night,
Peer pressure.
Rangers in Raleigh. I'm going to pick the Rangers to finally crack through, win a Game 7 on the road in Carolina, and eliminate the Canes.
You know, the crazy thing about this is I thought when he said that before the series started that if this went to a Game 7, there's no way Moose wasn't going to be picking the Rangers.
Exactly.
So how could you go with that as your opening? If you want to say, all right, I think there's a mismatch here, Canes and
You know
6.
me.
I knew you were going to be on board. So
it.
I'm glad to hear that you've come around. Look, I heard a very interesting stat the other day that no team has advanced to the conference finals in the Stanley Cup playoffs without winning at least one game on the road. Carolina can't win a game on the road in this series, so they'd be the first to do it. I don't think it happens. I think that this is going to be a grinded-out game. I think they have the best goaltender, and I think ultimately that makes the difference. I see it being a 2-1 game. If it goes to overtime again and it's, Cop or Kreider, it doesn't even matter. But that place, listen, you'll hear the celebration from Central Park no matter what borough you're in if that happens and it goes down that way.
If that game's in overtime on Monday night, do I have to do the sportscast during the news, or can I just...
No, you can say back and watch. Yeah, we'll bring the sportscast to you. We'll bring the camera up here. I'm sorry, the Moose is preoccupied.
Here's what we're gonna do. We'll have the game on the big screen just off camera, so that when it happens, Moose can react live. He can react
how he
live.
I know, that would be amazing. That would be
The Rangers win Game 7. It'll be fantastic. I don't think Tamsin or
Sports
Corey.
journalism dead.
Tamsin or Corey will not know how to react to that.
they would
if that
never.
happens
Yeah.
there.
Moose will handle it for both of them.
Oh my goodness! I don't know. I thought Moose had a stroke. I had no idea what was going on there.
I had no idea.
That'll be great. Let's hope that's the case. Look, for the Final Four, we had St. Peter's win in March Madness when they went to the Elite Eight
nice
on our
run.
air as it was happening, though.
That's a nice run.
Maybe we could get the celebration.
So
again.
I went Rangers. Todd, you've been on Rangers in 7 the entire run.
I have been on Rangers in 7 the entire run.
I think there was a Rangers in 6 there. Yeah, I think you said at one time they were good.
Why do you
am I wrong?
always...
No, wait, I'm wrong.
Why do
I'm
you
wrong.
always let
I'm wrong.
facts
We've been Game 7.
get away with a
We've
good
been Game
story.
7.
Yes, if you go back to the tape, I said it's 6 on guarded ice. But I love the way Moose goes. Just let him roll. It's like the way I started this podcast.
We got to keep people
The German.
accountable.
No,
Accountability matters here.
No, not on this podcast. We're all about the homers.
Yeah, that's it.
If you're a fan of the home team, tune into this podcast. All right, so we'll see you for the next round, everybody.
That's it. Let's
Picks
go Rangers.
11, New York Sports Nation. Let's go Rangers.
That was great.
That was fantastic.
Fantastic.
Get it up and out.